So we are going to move on to the next piece of this, and I just want to say that if anyone has not had a chance to tell their healthcare story, John Spillane will actually be setting up in the chapel, so you can tell your healthcare story to Steny. We'll make sure that Steny gets these stories, okay? So the next piece of this, I want to introduce, so one of the National Nurses United nurses is here, Renelle Solcaldo. You can come on up here, dear. For anyone who doesn't know, National Nurses United has been the backbone of this movement. They've done more for this movement than anyone, and they've been fighting this battle for a long time. So I want to go ahead and turn this over to them.
Hi, thank you. Welcome to everyone who's here. Welcome to opening the idea and opening the thought of Medicare for All. We've heard some powerful stories about the failure of our broken for-profit healthcare system and have heard from tremendous speakers today. So everyone give yourself a round of a hand, and all the panelists that were there, they were awesome. I have to say they did a lot better than I did at Lobby Day. I wasn't sure what was, when they first approached me to do this, it was like a quick text. I was like, I saw Medicare for All, and I was like, oh, sure. And then I got home, and I was like, oh, Steny Hoyer, he's going to be there because on Lobby Day, I did not get along too well with his representative. I was actually afraid the man, if he saw me in the car, he would run me over. So, and I was like a little apprehensive, but then it was explained that this would be an open forum where we can speak, where we can discuss our concerns, address our fears, whatever issues we may have, clarification. And I was like, okay, I can do that. I can be the bigger person. I can be calm and explain myself rationally, you know. And so when I was told he wasn't there or going to be here, I was a little disappointed, but not surprised. And I don't really want to do the Clint Eastwood thing, you know. It's kind of like bad optics. So nurses know that Medicare for All is exactly the right step at the right time for America moving forward. It will cover what we need while getting rid of debilitating premiums, deductibles, and copay. It eliminates crippling out-of-pocket expenses so that even people with insurance no longer have to set up GoFundMe campaigns for their expenses. It will provide real freedom of choice, the ability to get good care at any hospital, outpatient clinic, surgery center, physician's office, lab center, and any other healthcare provider. Let's face it, we fight for integration for the hospital, for integration for everyone into the hospital system, but we don't have true integration of the system because the one main barrier is cost. And if you can't afford it, you know, George Carlin, it's a big club and you're not invited or you're not part of it. But if you don't have money to be part of it, we're not truly integrated because finance is the cost that will keep a lot of us out there and not being able to seek the care that we need. As a nurse, far too often, all of you eventually end up at our bedside. We see you. We see the social, economic injustice, the structural violence. It ends up at our bedside. And as we're rushing through patient care and trying to get the help people need and making sure they're receiving the best in the limited time, we have to do it as fast as we can do it. We have to hear what's going on. I heard people say they don't want to be part of the insurance plan, they don't want to learn that. But as a nurse, I have to know all this. I have to know how many people are in dietary. I have to know how many housekeepers the hospital have. I have to know what the insurance plan is going to cost. I have to know how long it's going to take someone in admission to come up to my department. I have to know all of that. And when they tell me a story, I have to have some inkling of a solution or, hey, maybe we can do this. Maybe you can go around this. Maybe next time you can do this. Make sure you get this clear first. So far too often, I see people who have delayed their care and is unable to get care, and then they're coming to me at their worst. Or I have to tell them that the insurance company is not covering this and we can't be done. One incident I had a patient that had we saw her early in the year for a heart condition. She basically had a heart attack related to stress. So guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Stress will give you a heart attack along with the other things that you have that will contribute to that. She presented again with some more concerning symptoms, but we did not want to do an invasive procedure because we did not believe it was the same ideology or etiology. So the doctor recommended a CT scan, and I took her down for a CT scan. We're about to do the second part of the CT scan when we were informed that this is not covered right now, and we have to take her off the table. I always thought an out-of-body experience would be great, but it really wasn't because I felt I was hovering over and I was watching this nurse take her patient off the table and doing what she had to do and explaining. And the patient was very gracious. Oh, thank you for not making sure that I get this high bill. I don't want this high bill. How else can we do this? We shouldn't be grateful. We go in line where when we go to the when I'm sitting in a pharmacy line or I'm sitting in my doctor's office, I have a couple of feelings. I have envy. I have, oh my God, thank God that's not me. And then I'm going, okay, at least I have this little bit, all at the same time. Because when I hear somebody co-pays $15, I'm like, well, my co-pay now $15. And when I hear somebody got to pay $65, I go, thank God my co-pay is not $65. You never know where you are in that spectrum. We all share a different spectrum depending on what coverage we have. And then you see that those that they're telling them that there's a sign, you have to have a payment plan before we can treat you. So basically you have to sign a promissory note stating that you'll pay this much before care. And if you need care again before that bill is paid or you've been making good on the promissory note, you might not get care again. This isn't right. It is time to fix our broken healthcare system. Nurses agree that now is the perfect time to enact Medicare for all. Does everyone agree with me? Now is the time to make it happen. Every single day this movement is growing, neighbor by neighbor, door knock by door knock, phone call by phone call. Each one of us must step up and make this a reality. We won't be bullied by the scare tactics that insurance companies and corporations have been using for decades. Every other modern nation on earth already have a guaranteed health care, and even studies by conservative organizations show that Americans will save money by switching to Medicare for all. Their own research, they were trying to debunk, and their own research supported us, but they're not telling us that. The healthcare industry is dumping massive money into a tax on Medicare for all, but the nurses, patients, families, and working people who've been pushing for Medicare for all are demanding a change. We're tired of paying for our current broken healthcare system with our life savings and with our actual lives. As nurses, we're taught that the individual is responsible for their life, but we don't understand that it's not that simple. Okay? And now we're not only fighting just for care for people to get primary care so they can stay healthy, we're actually fighting for people to stay alive. When you leave here today, please join with us to make Medicare for all a reality by taking a few simple actions. First, join the national movement to replace this broken profit-driven system with a healthcare system that serves us all by registering online at medicareforall.org. Second, if you have not already done so, sign up for our state coalition before you leave. And if you have, thank you. Third, if you're on Twitter, let Representative Hoyer know we need Medicare for all. Use the hashtag #Steny-we-want-M4A. And lastly, please call Representative Hoyer's office at 202-225-4131. Again, 202-225-4131, and tell him to co-sponsor HR 1384. Thank you.
wrong. Okay. All right. Okay. Medicare for all is not a leftist idea. Republicans are on Medicare Part A and B on the Medicare card, okay? And then they get a Medicare supplement to supplement the Medicare Part A, Part B, okay? It's mostly Republicans in the United States that are on Medicare. They're on Social Security too. Social Security and Medicare are not leftist ideas, it's a centrist idea. So it's the United States of America. Medicare for all would cover what? Everyone.
Thank you. First of all, healthcare is a human right. But we have to see the humanity in everyone, and we don't see that. We have to see that every individual is deserving of healthcare for all.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a long and it's been a really interesting afternoon, and I want to thank everyone for coming. But before we go, I want to ask Reverend Dr. Delman Coates, who's the pastor of Mount Enon Baptist Church, to come up and say a few words.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It is so good to see all of you here this afternoon, and I'm delighted that we were able to host this very important conversation. And I hope we are able to move beyond conversation to action. And I do want to thank our media team, our AV team, all of our guys for helping to get our admin staff. But I'm delighted to partner with you. It's so good to see so many friends who are here. I had the privilege of connecting and working with many of you during my run for Lieutenant Governor about 5 years ago with Heather Mazier, and also in working with many of you on a range of issues that are so key and critical to our community and to the sustainability of our community. I regret that I was not able to be here at the very beginning. I was in Baltimore at the invitation of the Baltimore Our Revolution group focused on the Green New Deal. And I think there are linkages between Green New Deal, Medicare for all, free public college, canceling our school loan debt, more federal spending for local and state priorities. And I think the linkage has to do with how we're going to pay for it. We recently launched, as a part of our church, a campaign called the Our Money Campaign that is really designed to mainstream modern monetary theory, which really is about educating community activists and organizers, policymakers, citizens in the community about foundational principles for how to fund the range of priorities that we care about that no one's really talking about. It is assumed that the government needs revenue in the forms of taxation in order to fund the range of priorities that we need. But it does not. The government is not a household. Can you say that with me? The government is not a household, at least the federal government anyway. The federal government does not need revenue first in the form of taxes or borrowing or issuing bonds in order to fund priorities. God forbid we were to go to war tomorrow or today. We don't want that. But if we were, there will not be an initial conversation about which multi-billionaires and millionaires we're going to fund first in order to fund the war. We create the money through public spending. And as long as we don't exceed the threshold of inflation, we have the fiscal power, possibilities to fund all of the priorities. And healthcare is as much in the national interest. Preserving and protecting our environment is as much in the national interest as the range of other public spending priorities that are happening today. And so we have a campaign. Our website is ourmoneyus.org. We're having a Labor Day march and rally for the same issues that we're here about today On Labor Day at 11 a.m., we're meeting at the King Memorial in D.C., and we're marching to the Federal Reserve. We have 500 members of our church registered. Someone mentioned earlier it would be great to have members of this church engaged. We are engaged on this and other issues. We have 500 members of our church engaged. It's a march. It's a march in Washington for full employment and economic justice. Many people don't realize that the March on Washington, the full name of it was the March on Washington for Full Employment, right? It was not a march so that people of all races and religions could be in a room and just hold hands and sing Kumbaya. It was bigger than that. Dr. King said, what good is it for a person to have the right to sit at a lunch counter if they don't have the money to buy the hamburger? And so this campaign is about educating activists and citizens about the one issue that is often raised when we want to talk about issues that we need, whether it's Medicare for all, and we do need a single-payer system. And we should not allow our elected officials to give all of these smoke screens about, oh, you know, I want everyone to have health insurance. No, we need a single-payer system. So that we can address this issue. Someone earlier mentioned myths. The biggest myth, if you listen to the recent Democratic debate, the biggest myth is that single-payer Medicare for all will cost $30 trillion. When you understand the new economics of modern monetary theory, Medicare for all will not cost us $30 trillion. It will create $30 trillion in the form of deficit spending. Deficit spending is net public money creation. It will put money in circulation, and it will create money to provide health care for nurses and doctors and anesthesiologists, and building hospitals and creating jobs and opportunities. That's what we need. It is not a negative. It will not cost us. It will create $30 trillion and put $30 trillion in our economy. I want to show you this 3-minute video, if our guys have it. It's a 3-minute video, which is a part of a larger micro-documentary on our website. We have a series of economists that are ourmoneyus.org. You've read a lot about modern monetary theory. We have economists such as Stephanie Kelton and many others. You see our whole advisory council, diverse cohort of economists who are talking about mainstreaming MMT. We should not have to wait until Amazon is taxed in order to get health care. We should not have to wait until Jeff Bezos is taxed. And there may be reasons to tax millionaires and billionaires, but we don't have to tax in order to spend. This is very important for us to decouple this notion that you have to take from the makers in order to, quote unquote, give to the takers, right? We have got to educate the public about the power of public spending to solve our greatest problem. Do we have that?
Envision a world in which every American, regardless of race, gender, class, religion, or country of origin, was guaranteed a good job with benefits, where quality, low-cost public health care and free college were available to everyone. Imagine a world in which American families had less household debt and didn't have to struggle from paycheck to paycheck just to make ends meet. In this future, federal, state, and local governments had sufficient funding to provide critical public infrastructure and services, such as high-quality public schools, well-equipped community centers, expanded high-speed public transportation, and Social Security. Businesses would thrive because consumers would have less private debt and more money to purchase the goods and services they need, as well as to enjoy some of the niceties of life, such as vacations, the arts, and the latest technologies. And imagine doing all of this without raising taxes to fund spending or worrying about deficits and the federal debt. While this vision of an economy that works for everyone may seem utopian, the truth is it's completely achievable. But we have not realized it because we have failed to understand and utilize the power of money creation for the benefit of the American people. According to noted economist James Galbraith, there are two ways money can be created. One way is for the government to spend. The other is for banks to lend. As a nation, we have been over-relying on money created through bank lending. Mainstream economists and policymakers are relying on outdated economic assumptions. Their erroneous view of federal deficits and the federal debt places constraints on our ability to fund the things we care about. Think about it. Whenever presented with policies that benefit the public, such as universal health care, a job guarantee, free public college, or protecting Social Security, pundits and politicians often debate, how are we going to pay for it? They ask, where's the money going to come from? And this line of thinking assumes that the federal government is like a household, which needs to generate revenue in the form of taxes or borrowing in order to spend. One side says, we'll fund it by raising taxes, while the other side says, we need to cut spending, cut entitlement programs, and cut taxes. In the midst of this debate, the American people end up divided, forced to choose sides, and ultimately the policies that would benefit the public go unfunded. New schools don't get constructed, jobs don't get created, and our waterways and streams don't get protected. But this is really a false choice because the federal government is not a household. Therefore, it can responsibly create all of the money we need for the things that we care about without raising taxes and borrowing to fund it. A household cannot do that. When we go to war, for example, no one asks, where's the money going to come from? The government simply creates it through public spending. If we seek to solve some of our nation's greatest challenges, like joblessness, economic inequality, health care, mass incarceration, public education, affordable housing, and public transportation, we must likewise re-legitimize the power of money creation for the benefit of the public. And as long as we don't exceed the threshold of inflation, there are no fiscal constraints that prevent us from doing so. Help us build a bipartisan, diverse network of support that educates the public, advances the public debate, facilitates research, and ultimately results in electing members of Congress who support these goals, because money created by us is money created for us. Join our campaign at ourmoneyus.org/sign up to stay informed of our campaign efforts, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ourmoneyus. Because if we change the way we think about money, we can change the world.
I'm so glad we were able to partner with so many of the organizations that came together. Thank you so much, Suchitra, for staying on me and making sure that we got this done. I'd love for us to come back together to talk about the power of the public purse to address all of these issues that we care about. Medicare for all is also inclusive in a broader series of robust spending proposals that are on the table. And we cannot allow our elected officials tell us the lie that we do not have the money for it. There is money for it. We create the money and we can responsibly create all the money we need to solve all of our greatest challenges. And if we change the way we think about money, we can literally change the world. You all have a great afternoon. We have, I think we have out in the lobby, we have flyers, information about the Our Money campaign. If you're interested in joining us on Labor Day, meet us at the King Memorial at 11 a.m. Tell your networks, tell your friends and others, and I look forward to working with you all as we go forward. These action items right here, I'm going to have our church do that. Hey, I like that number 3. Call. We need to call. We need to also write and email them as well, because I believe if you send a letter or you email, then they have to or should give you a response back, not just calling. But I know you had a tough experience with that. But this has been great. So y'all have a great day. Be blessed.
Hello, hello. Hey guys, so we want to do one last action before you leave. This is something that we kind of stole from national nurses at the end of their calls. On the count of 3, we want everybody all at once to say, oh, they can come up here. Okay. Come up here. We're going to do a picture and we're also going to all say something.